children, good morning. Welcome to today's reading time. Today I am going to tell you a fiction, The Treasure in the Forest, written by H.G. Wells. In this wonderful short story from H.G. Wells, two Englishmen with a little regard for the life of a Chinese seek a buried treasure, unaware that karma and justice seek a treasure of their own. The canoe was now approaching the land. The bay opened out, and a gap in the white surf of the reef marked where the little river ran out to the sea. The thicker and deeper green of the virgin forest showed its curves down the distant hill slope. The forest here came close to the beach. Far beyond, dim and almost cloud-like in texture, rose the mountains like suddenly frozen waves. The sea was still save for an almost imperceptible swell. The sky blazed. The man with the cart paddle stopped. It should be somewhere here, he said. He shipped and paddled and held his arms out straight before him. The other man had been in the forepart of the canoe, closely scrutinizing the land. He had a sheet of yellow paper on his knee. "Come and look at this, Evans," he said. Both men spoke in low tones and their lips were hard and dry. The man called Evans came swaying along the canoe until he could look over his companion's shoulder. The paper had the appearance of a rough map. By much folding it was creased and worn to the pitch of separation. And the second man held the discolored fragments together where they had parted. On it one could dimly make out with almost obliterated pencil the outline of the bay. "Here," said Evans, "is the reef and here is the gap." He ran his thumbnail over the chart. "This curved and twisting line is the river I could do with a drink now, and this chart is the place. You see the dotted line," said the man with the map. "It's a straight line and runs from the opening of the reef to a clump of palm trees. The star comes just where it cuts the river. We must mark the place as we go into the lagoon." "It's queer," said Evans after a pause, "what these little marks down here are for. It looks like the plan of a house or something, but what all these little dashes pointing this way and that may mean, I cannot get a notion. And what's the writing?" "Chinese," said the man with the map. "Of course he was a Chinese," said Evans. "They all were," said the man with the map. They both sat for some minutes staring at the land while the canoe drifted slowly. Then Evans looked towards the paddle. "Your turn with the paddle now, Hooker," said he, and his companion quietly folded up his map, put it in his pocket, passed Evans carefully, and began to paddle. His movements were languid, like those of a man whose strength was nearly exhausted. Evans sat with his eyes half closed, watching the frothy breakwater of the coral cream nearer and nearer. The sky was like a furnace, for the sun was near the zenith. Though they were so near the treasure, he did not feel the exaltation he had anticipated. The intense excitement of the struggle for the plan and a long night voyage from the mainland in the unprovisioned canoe had, to use his own expression, taken it out of him. He tried to arouse himself by directing his mind to the ignorance that Chinamen and spoke of, but it would not rest here. It came back headlong to the thought of sweet water rippling in the river and to the almost endurable dryness of his lips and throat. The rhythmic wash of the sea upon the reef was becoming audible now, and it had a pleasant sound in his ears. The water washed along the side of the canoe, and the paddle dripped between each stroke. Presently he began to doze. He was still dimly conscious of the island, but a queer dream's texture interwove with his sensations. Once again it was the night when Hooker had hit upon the Chinaman's secret. He saw the moonlit trees, the little fire burning, and the black figures of the three Chinamen silvered on one side by moonlight and on the other glowing from the firelight. and heard them talking together in Pidgin English, for they came from different provinces. Hooker and caught the drift of their talk first and has motioned to him to listen. Fragments of the conversation were inaudible and fragments incomprehensible. A Spanish galleon from the Philippines, hopelessly aground and its treasure buried against the day of return, lay in the background of the story. A shipwrecked crew, thinner by disease, a quarrel or so, and the need of discipline, and at last taking to their boats, never to be heard of again. Then Changhi, only a year since, wandering ashore, had happened upon the ingots hidden for 200 years, had deserted his junk and reburied them with infinite toil. Single-handed out, very safe. He laid great stress on the safety. It was a secret of his. Abruptly, he stopped and sitting down by the pile of ingots and resting his chin upon his hands and his elbows upon his knees, stand at the distorted but still quivering body of his companion. Changhi's grin came into his mind again. The dull pain spread towards his throat and grew slowly in intensity. Far above him, a faint breeze stirred the greenery, and the white petals of some unknown flower came floating down through the gloom. The treasure in the forest was featured as the short story of the day in 2016. Thank you, children. See you in the next class.